I watched every new fall 2023 anime so you don't have to, and today I'm going to tell you what are the top 10 new anime from fall 2023 that you should look out for. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. You're watching the channel Dr.Applesauce. My name's Will. It's another beautiful day here in Texas. I hope you guys know that I love you, God loves you, that there is an awesome plan for your life. So I just finished watching every single episode of every new fall 2023 anime. Now, I'm not talking about shows that came out that were season 2 or season 3. I'm talking about the new anime, the first season of everything that's new. And guys, it was like 45 different shows. It took me a while to get through all of them, and I've narrowed it down to the 10 that I think, in my opinion, are the absolute best. Now, I am a huge fan of shonen. I like action adventure, so there's going to be a little bit of a bias towards that. There's a ton of great stuff that came out that isn't in that genre, but these are my opinions of some of the most anticipated shows that are out right now that deserve, at least if you're interested in them, to go watch an episode or two. Guys, drop me a comment down below. Let me know which of the new anime that came out this fall is your favorite. Now, I want to start off with a few honorable mentions. These are just a few that I think are super cool, might not really fall into my top 10s, but I think they're worth a look. The first one on the honorable mentions list is the Vexations of a Shut-In Vampire Princess. A little bit of a weird kind of fan servicey anime, and what's interesting about this is this vampire princess who doesn't want to be a vampire princess basically gets told that she's going to be this big super powerful vampire princess, and sounds a little weird, right? And so it goes through this whole thing where they're training her to be this massive overlord, and she has to win like 200 battles in war in order to be promoted. I'm being very general in this, right? Like I said, it's an honorable mention. The thing that's really cool about this that piqued my interest is at the very end of this first battle, you see that there's actually only like 5 or 6 nations in this anime, and they all fight on this battlefield that everybody who dies comes back to life when the battle's over, and it's called the Eternal War. And so it deserved a little bit of a mention because I thought that was an interesting concept. Next on the honorable mention list is Shai. Shai takes place in a world, imagine My Hero Academia when everybody's quirks just started activating, where there's a few people in the world that have superpowers, and Shai is a superhero for Japan, and she's incredibly shy and fights this crippling anxiety. Very interesting show. It's worth a look if you like that type of thing. Last on the honorable mention is a show called My Daughter Left and Returned as an S-Ranked Adventurer. This one, it's right in my alley of like what I enjoy, but it just wasn't enough for me to say, yes, have to absolutely watch it. But it was interesting, a show about a guy who's an incredibly powerful adventurer, loses his leg, can't be an adventurer anymore, finds a kid in the forest, raises her, and she becomes a powerful adventurer and comes back, and all kinds of adventure ensues. It's worth checking out if it sounds cool to you. All right, to my top 10. The top 10 anime, the most exciting anime in my opinion that I've already watched at least 1 or 2 episodes of. Some of them I'm watching more. These are the top 10 that in my opinion from fall 2023 you should be checking out, so you don't have to go through and watch all 45 of them. These are in no particular order, but the first one is going to be a show called A Returner's Magic Should Be Special. This is very interesting because it has isekai vibes, but it's not really an isekai. It starts off taking place where we see these adventurers fighting this huge, big, bad dragon demon thing, and they destroy the demon dragon, and then they start to talk amongst themselves, and you realize they've been at this war for years and years and years and years, and the world has just been decimated. Virtually everybody that they love has been killed or lost to this war, and they're reminiscing that the war's finally over, and they're waiting for like a teleport gate back to their homeland or something like that, and they're reminiscing about all of this, and then the teleport gate comes, and the main character wakes up, and instead of being teleported back to his homeland, he's been teleported back to his homeland decades in the past, before he just started going into the magical academy, before he was ever the big bad wizard that he was able to go on this giant adventure. It's a very interesting concept because this character kind of has a mental breakdown for a second, thinking like all of that loss, all of that was for nothing, and then realizes, wait, I've gone back in time, maybe I can make all of this right. So A Returner's Magic Should Be Special. Very interesting idea and concept. I watched the first episode, really liked it. I'm definitely going to watch more. The next one that I think you should definitely check out is called Protocol Rain. This one's really interesting. It's an esports anime. We are in an era where a lot of sport anime is popular. Protocol Rain is about esports, about video gaming, professional video gamers, and it follows a couple main characters that are building a professional video game team, and it follows the main character who was like one of the best gamers and then had to quit to help, you know, take care of his family, take care of his sick sister, and works at like a video game cafe, and then his friends build an esports team, and there's an opportunity to join, and he joins, and that's kind of how it ensues. And obviously you see actual esports gameplay, right? and you actually see them playing these games, which is really cool. But the story follows the characters and what they go through in this esports world. I thought it was a really interesting concept. You see them playing the video games and competing from the very first episode. Really interesting new take, and I'm excited to see where this one goes. All right, while we're on the topic of games, the next one that I think you should check out is called Shangri-La Frontier. Now, this one is about a virtual reality game, and in the world of this anime, virtual reality is just how all games are experienced. But in this world, there is a subculture of people who play virtual reality video games, but they only play the worst, of the trashiest, the most horrible games, because that's what they enjoy, because they're so impossible to play and impossible to beat. And there's a very small group of people that only play these games. They exclusively play these horrible games and then beat them, and that's what they do. And we follow the main character, and that's who he is. He only plays these horrible games, decides to take a break from playing the world's worst video games, and puts in and plays the newest, the best video game that's out there, and I believe the name of the game is actually Shangri-La Frontier. And then you see him in this game, and he's become an incredible gamer because he's always playing these video games that are horrible. Goes through the character creation, and the fight scenes in it are really, really good, and it doesn't really seem like that original of an idea, but the animation was beautiful. The fight scenes were really cool. I was entertained the entire 20 some odd minutes of the show, and it definitely deserves a further look. The next one on must watches is something that's really near and dear to me because I was training to be a firefighter before things in life happened, before the pandemic happened, before my YouTube channels took off and I was able to do this full time. And this one's called Firefighter Dao, the Rescuer in Orange. And this is literally an anime about firefighters in Japan, about their training, about the fires that they fight, about them going into buildings and rescuing people, and all the intense, crazy stuff that happens with that. And it's really, really cool, not to be mixed up with Fire Force, which isn't like real firefighters. It's like a fantasy anime where they have superpowers. This is no fantasy, no superpowers. It's like a real life anime where firefighters are going into various calls and rescuing people and saving people, and it's top notch. Really good animation, really good suspense, really good action, definitely worth checking out. Next up, we have a really cool one called Ragna Crimson. Now, Ragna Crimson is a fantasy type anime that takes place in a world where these dragons have taken over and are evil and just like the bane of humanity's existence, and there's a thing called dragon hunters. And our main character is partnered up with the #1 savant dragon hunter in the world. She's the most deadly dragon hunter, and she's a 12-year-old girl. And they go on adventures and they become really close, like they're in love or they're brother and sister or something like that. And then he starts to have these dreams that she dies, that she gets killed, and he starts to get tortured by these dreams. And through an interesting series of events where we see some flashbacks to what's the future and then what's the past and what's the future and the past, his future self comes in right before this girl gets killed and basically tells him, hey, I wish I had all the power that I had now before I lost everybody. And he bestows his future power from decades in the future onto his past self. And then all of a sudden he wakes up and he's able to save his friend, who's the 12-year-old dragon hunter savant, from being killed by another dragon that's one of the more powerful dragons in the land. And it was interesting that this was actually a 45-minute episode 1, which is very rare to happen in anime. So Ragna Crimson, action-packed from the start to the finish of the first episode, looks really cool. I'm excited to watch more of it. Guys, we're halfway. If you're enjoying this video, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. It's free for you to do that, and it really, really helps. Next up is one that I would not have normally watched. This is an anime that I would have just scrolled by, but the fact that I wanted to check out every new anime for fall 2023, I actually watched this, and it's not something I would have found, and it's called Paradox Live. And Paradox Live is an anime about a rap battle crew, and they're they're musicians, and they're like Japanese rappers, and they write music, and it's very interesting. But what's really interesting about Paradox Live, outside of the absolutely stunning animation, the animation in this anime is gorgeous. What's really interesting is in this world, there's this metal that's been discovered, and people can synergize with this metal when they're singing and doing various artistic things, and the metal will emit these illusions. So when they do these rap battles, there's not only is it music, but there's like a visual thing that happens as well. Very cool concept. And in this anime, there is like the most prominent rap battle nightclub that ever was. I think it was called Club Paradox or something like that. just randomly disappeared one day, and then like physically just disappeared, and then it reappears, and they invite some of the best rap crews to come and battle, and then that follows our main character's crews. And then what really caught my attention about this, the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, this is cool, I'm enjoying this, but like in the last minute or two, there's some stuff that happens that really starts to point towards this darker underlying motif. Really gave me some like Perfect Blue vibes. Very interesting, really cool, really beautiful. I highly recommend checking out, even if you don't like that type of anime, because I'm normally not into that, but it was really intriguing. All right, next up, we're going into Berserk of Gluttony. This one is a very, very stereotypical shonen archetypes. Underpowered guy, has a horrible life, has one ability that doesn't seem to work very, very well, meets a female protagonist character, gets a really cool magical weapon, yada, 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 right? But what's really interesting is in Berserk of Gluttony, this world, everybody is born with one or two special stats or abilities. And depending on how powerful or how valuable your ability is that you're born with, it determines your social status in the world. If you have something that's really good that goes to combat, you're like way up here. Or if you have something really good that helps with economics or helps with, business, then you can be like a professional merchant. And then you have people that have really weird abilities that seem like they mean nothing, like our main character whose ability is gluttony, and it just makes him hungry all the time, and he's poor, and then he realizes when he accidentally has to kill somebody one time that when he kills people, his gluttony skill activates and he inherits their power and their skills and traits. And it just starts along this interesting journey where he gets a sword that he can imbue his power into that sword to upgrade it. Really, really cool, interesting concept. I really enjoyed this one. I think I watched the first 3 episodes of it. Berserk of Gluttony is definitely worth checking out. Next up is an insane anime called Kingdoms of Ruin that starts off with a bang. Kingdom of Ruin takes place in a world where we have magic and we have witches, and the witches are bestowed upon the world by God to help lead humanity in life. And humans and witches are supposed to work together and have a symbiotic, friendly relationship. Well, as humanity develops and grows and creates more scientific technology, humanity decides that they don't need witches anymore. And not only do they not need witches, but witches are going to hold them back and try and rule them. And so they systematically go out and eradicate witches throughout the entire world. And our story starts off following Chloe and Adonis. And Adonis is a human child that Chloe has adopted. And Chloe is the most powerful witch ever, supposedly. And they become a mother and son type of a relationship, and they get captured, and Chloe gets brutally murdered in front of Adonis while the crowd is recording with their smartphones. And it just kicks off this incredibly interesting revenge anime. And this is the one that I've watched the most of. I think I've watched the first 6 or 7 episodes. And it starts off with a bang, and it doesn't really relent. It's gone in some directions that I didn't expect, but this anime is continuing to keep me engaged, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Very, very wild and brutal and really interesting revenge anime called The Kingdoms of Ruin. If you like action and you're not squeamish, you should definitely check this one out. All right, next up we have a very cool one called Fen Beyond Journeys End. I love the concept of this anime. One, the animation is beautiful and it's just so well done. And it follows Fen, who is an elf who doesn't really understand that elves live so much longer than every other race. I'm a huge fan of fantasy, so I've been reading Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms and stuff like that my whole life. And so I'm very familiar with the fact that elves, depending on the universe and the story that you're in, elves either live forever and don't die unless they're killed, or elves just simply live for hundreds and hundreds of years, and their lifespans, far outstretch that of other races. Well, in Fen Beyond Journeys End, that's how it goes. And she starts off where you're following Fen and a couple of companions as they save the world from this big monster. And then she leaves and goes off on a journey to return 50 years later, and all of her companions are old and dying. And she never realized how fleeting other people's lives were compared to elves, and she makes a vow that she's going to be more intentional with people that she builds relationships with in the future, and she meets new friends, and then it just goes off and goes crazy. Really cool anime. Beautiful, really interesting concepts. Highly recommend. And now we're coming up to Undead Unluck. This anime, it just takes off with a bang and is just absolutely insane. I haven't researched if it's created by the same people that did Soul Eater, but one of the main characters, Undead, looks like Soul. He's got the pointed teeth like Soul, very reminiscent of Fire Force. So I'm kind of curious if that's the case. But Undead Unluck follows two characters. One is Unluck, and she, if anybody touches her, she takes away all their luck, and something bad happens to them that typically kills them. And the other one is Undead. He's a guy that can't die, and they meet up, and Undead is like, hey, your unluck could be the thing that finally kills me and allows me to die after living for so dang long. And then they go on these adventures, and they get chased by this organization that's apparently collecting all these people that have these weird powers. So there's other people that have powers besides Undead and Unluck, and really cool action. And the way that Undead uses his regenerative abilities to like use his legs regenerating and continually, you know, cutting them off and using the blood that's regenerating to propel himself so he can fly and do all kinds of action-y, crazy things. It's very interesting and well done. The animation is beautiful. The fight scenes are cool. It seems like it's going to have some really, really cool story. And this is one of the most anticipated anime of 2023 because apparently the manga has been really, really, really popular. So Undead Unluck, very cool, looks cool, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. It just starts off like a roller coaster and keeps on going. So that's my top 10 Fall 2023 anime. Check them out. If you like any of them, drop me a comment down below. Let me know which one you're going to check out or which one you liked the most. Or if there were others, there's a lot of slice of life, a lot of other stuff that I'm not really into. If there was something like that you were into, let me know in the comments below which one that you like. If you enjoyed this video, guys, you'll probably like that one a lot too. And like I always say, find somebody to love and serve today. Be the change you want to see in the world. See you next time.